Welcome teachers. Mrs. Gilbert has asked us here today to introduce you to the effectiveness and importance of integrated learning. With recent research into brain-based learning identifying that the brain seeks pattern, meaning and connectedness methods, a natural capacity for integration proves to be a current prosperous and effective way of teaching that should be invoked within every classroom. Furthermore, as we take into account the multiliteracies that students of today will need to negotiate increasingly complex and challenging social contexts, such literacies evidently transcend across current individual subject boundaries. Therefore, the way that the curriculum is approached and practiced remains a continuing matter of importance. With that being said, Jules, Melissa and myself, Carly, are going to assist you in gaining a greater understanding and appreciation of an integrated curriculum. This will be achieved as we each classify, analyse and evaluate a range of past and present integrated curriculum approaches. We will look at how and why the curriculum has evolved over time to essentially draw a conclusion on the critical importance of integrated learning. So you may be wondering, what is integrated learning or integrated studies? Integrated studies is a form of planning and teaching that incorporates various subject areas and disciplines. As a whole, curriculum integration can be described as an approach to teaching and learning that connects knowledge, understandings and skills from within or across subject areas in meaningful ways. The integration of knowledge and skills can be categorised according to three main types of curricular connections: within one subject alone, between two or more subjects, and beyond the subjects. Traditionally, an interdisciplinary approach towards education was most commonly embodied within the curriculum. This was evident when an arrangement of knowledge and skills within a single subject area were favourably practiced. For example, in the past, educators would have taught the subdiscipline of earth and space science exclusively within the single subject area of science. By implementing such actions, an interdisciplinary approach saw teachers organising and applying the curriculum into individual subjects and units. Essentially, classrooms were solely teacher-centred and it was their job to pass knowledge down and fill students' minds with new information using explicit teaching methods such as direct instruction. Students were therefore perceived as being passive recipients. Theorists such as John Locke supported such practices as he believed children to be a blank slate. For example, children learnt from rigorous and pragmatic experiences shaped by the explicit instructions given by educators. Furthermore, pedagogy supporting an interdisciplinary approach was grounded in theory of learning that focused on behaviour. Behaviourist learning theorists such as J. Watson and B. Skinner argued that one behaviour leads to another, and so, if a teacher acted in a specific way, students would likewise act in a similar manner. Thus too, if students learnt in a specific manner, they would then incorporate this into their working profession. Can you see a resemblance in the way that children were structurally seated and how this structure transpired within society norms? So, why was an interdisciplinary approach to teaching and learning the norm in traditional education? Reflecting back to the 1880s, 4/5 of the people working in the production of goods were working in modernised factories. This saw labour take place in assembly line conditions with repetitive tasks orchestrated by a rhythm set by external bosses. Subsequently, by the mid-19th century, the curriculum borrowed their new designs from the factory builders' experiences, and the result was an industrial age school system fashioned in the image of the assembly line, the icon of the booming industrial age. Ultimately, students were prepared as workforce participants depending upon their abilities and positions in society. In line with the industrial age and subsequent interdisciplinary approach towards teaching and learning, a fragmented model was the consequential result for organising the curriculum. The fragmented model viewed the curriculum through a periscope, offering one siding at a time, one direct focus on a single discipline. Hence, each subject was believed to be an individual entity in and of itself. This was clearly evident when teachers would instruct students to put away their maths textbooks to then grab out their English books. undoubtedly distinguishing time slots and fragmentation between each subject. This again proved that classrooms were solely teacher-centred, with children believed to be a blank slate. James Bean made a solid point regarding the problems of a fragmented model when he stated, "Fragmentation encourages children to view the world in divided compartments. This model of curriculum sees no unity. In real life, the effects of a fragmented model may see a child unable to make sense of it all. For example, when faced with a problem or puzzling situation, a child may stop to ask which part of science, which part of mathematics, which part of art is the problem singularly subject to. Thankfully, in the past 20 years, there has been a move away from the conception of a learner as a sponge, towards an image of learner as an active constructor of meaning. Now, the fragmented model proves outdated and unconnected to modern society." While an interdisciplinary approach towards education and a fragmented model of curriculum may have suited traditional teaching and learning, today we see fundamental changes occurring in every aspect of life. Currently, to live successfully, one needs skills that cut across all disciplines. Therefore, we must question, how do schools produce the type of productive citizens needed in this new century? How can students be encouraged to become self-directed, critical and creative thinkers who excel at problem solving? To address these questions, Jules will now address an integrated approach from the present.
Thank you, Carly, for that introduction. I hope you're all following at this point. So what Carly has covered is the fragmented approach, which saw single subject areas used in an interdisciplinary way. What I would like to discuss with you all is when moving forward, let's look at how do we teach students in the 21st century. Let's have a think about what are some 21st century skills that we are aiming to support our students in learning. Let's look at the 4 C's. Critical thinking. This can be focused, linear, intentional, logical, and systematic. Critical thinking on its own will not solve most problems. We also need creative thinking, which is almost the opposite. Creative thinking is divergent, non-linear, intuitive, emotional, and organic. When students are able to think critically and creatively together, back and forth, they're able to solve all kinds of problems. The next part is how can we teach students to work with other people? Communication. This consists of listening, speaking, reading, and writing. This also is not enough on its own. Once students have communicated ideas, they need to work with other people to get those ideas accomplished. Now we look at collaboration. This is deciding, delegating, producing, and reporting. Using the 4 C's, we can see that students learn to work in a group to accomplish a goal, solve problems, and to work with others to do so. Now let's incorporate this into the curriculum, link to pedagogy, and look at Fogarty's model of integration a little closer. Integrated approach goes across several disciplines. This matches subjects for overlaps in topics and concepts with some team teaching in an authentic integrated model. For example, in maths, science, arts, and literacy, teachers look for patterning models and approach content through these patterns. Here is an example of a unit of work from the Queensland Curriculum and Assessment Authority. This integrated cross-curriculum unit on the Great Barrier Reef uses an inquiry approach to learning, focusing on the key learning areas of science, technology, the arts, health and physical education, and selected areas of English and maths. When we look at the context and the assessment, it demonstrates the integration of key learning areas and uses both formative and summative assessments for each area. This is what Fogarty describes as using a cross-disciplinary approach. It demonstrates the model that's blending the 4 major disciplines by finding the overlapping skills, concepts, and attitudes for all 4. Inquiry-based learning is dynamic as it actively involves students in their own learning. Topics are selected to develop significant understandings about society. This is the context that drives the unit, and the topics are seen as vehicles for the development of big ideas about society. Often associated with the work of Dewey and Brunner and constructivist learning theory, inquiry-based learning is commonly described as an interactive, student-driven process where knowledge is constructed rather than transmitted. Students construct their own understanding of the world through experiencing things and reflecting on their experiences. While the language differs, there are multiple models in circulation, like the 5Es model and the integrating socially model, that can broadly be summarized by Gilbert's 3 stages of inquiry-based learning. 1. Establishing what we want to find out, posing questions and planning inquiry. 2. Finding out, collecting and analyzing evidence. And 3. Deciding what to do with what we've found, concluding, reflecting, and responding to the inquiry. This is where inquiry-based learning links perfectly into de Bono's 6 hats theory. De Bono's 6 hats can help students work together to find a solution. The hats are coloured black, blue, green, red, white, and yellow. Each hat represents a different logical and philosophical approach to thinking about a problem and trying to solve it. The hats essentially become a framework for the training of thinking. Together, a group of students think about the decision with a number of different hats on. For example, when all students are wearing the red hat, they can all think together about feelings before putting on the white hat and thinking together about the facts. This can help all students feel that their perspective will be heard and to be able to see things from others' perspective. In summary, Fogarty's integrated approach is an interdisciplinary model that pulls together multiple disciplines. The best way to support this is through inquiry-based learning. Inquiry-based learning supports a constructivist approach with the integration of cross-curriculum priorities and general capabilities of the Australian curriculum. De Bono's 6 thinking hats supports metacognition and higher order thinking amongst students, which supports 21st century skills including critical and creative thinking, communication and collaboration. Now I'd like to pass you on to Mel to discuss a differing integrated approach from the present.
Thanks, Jules and Carly. So, to recap, curriculum instruction has changed significantly over the years. There were failed attempts at curriculum integration in the late 1990s, early 2000s. However, as we've heard from Carly and Jules, in more recent years, integrated curriculum has really gained momentum. When we think of curriculum in the broadest sense as all the experiences that learners have in the course of living, then we can truly begin to understand the value in integration, especially given an integrated curriculum promotes a holistic approach to learning, balancing community and cultural context of the learner. And this is really important because, as we know, today's students are learning and developing in a rapidly different world, one with increased societal demands, meaning that we need to be focusing on the whole child and their connectedness. Another benefit of curriculum integration, though, is the benefit of it being holistic and more focused on connections. Integration has also gained traction amongst academics for its effectiveness in easing the burden of an overladen curriculum. In this sense, it is giving you, us, the teacher, more control back over our priorities and goals at a classroom level, allowing us to pull curriculum together in a way that makes sense to us and really connect to our students and their needs. As Carly and Jules outlined, further along the continuum of Fogarty's models of integration sits multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary integration, as I'll refer to it herein. This broad approach, previously mentioned as between or across several disciplines, is generally what most teachers are familiar with. Under the umbrella of the interdisciplinary model, as we know, are the 5 models being sequenced, shared, webbed, threaded, and integrated, which Jules just covered. For another perspective on curriculum integration, I'm going to explore the shared model in a little more depth with you. The shared model refers to the bringing together of 2 separate disciplines, for example, science and English, and overlapping them to generate shared planning and content. Imagine looking through binoculars and you have your 2 distinctive disciplines. However, these disciplines have mutual concepts being taught. Take, for example, science and English units. Both subjects, the children are exploring ducks as a theme. In English, students are building field knowledge of ducks to assist them with their assessment task of creating a narrative about ducks. While at the same time, in the science unit, students are learning about ducks and their life cycle in order to create an informational report with illustrations on the life cycle of a duck. The two subjects are taught independently. However, with careful and deliberate planning by the teacher, both subjects are exploring ducks as a unifying theme. The value in the shared model of integration is these deliberate actions and plans by the teacher to really connect the disciplines through an underlying theme, concept, or skills. This is what makes it an authentic model. It's the deliberate intention to foster the student's conceptual understanding. And this is where shared integration links really nicely to the constructivist theory of learning. As a theory, constructivism centralises around the learner's ability to construct new learning and understanding based on previous knowledge. In the example just given, we can see that through the shared theme of ducks and the tasks of composing different literature on ducks, students are building their field knowledge, and they're constructing a sophisticated schema of ducks and also text composition. As we know, students do not develop or view knowledge in a fragmented way. Rather, the research reveals that when the brain is exposed to patterns and connections, it can enhance meaning making. An interdisciplinary approach is based upon making connections from unit to unit, one day to the next, and this ultimately assists students to see their learning as they make connections between the skills and concepts and real-life application. Likewise, in constructivist theory of learning emphasises that new learning is dependent upon what students already know and understand, and that it is best constructed when learners play an active role in redefining their own ideas. Constructivism theory was heavily influenced by the work of theorists led by Vygotsky. Vygotsky stated that children's cognitive development was dependent upon social interactions. Vygotsky believed that for children to become more cognitively competent, they require collaborative dialogue from teachers and more knowledgeable others. The teacher, as the more knowledgeable person, has the greatest knowledge and skills, and through the students' interactions with their teacher, students can observe and imitate and acquire new skills and knowledge through careful instruction. So, what would constructivism look like in the classroom within a shared interdisciplinary model of integration? Well, Vygotsky's theory can be applied in the classroom through a range of strategies such as direct instruction, collaborative learning, and reciprocal learning, where the teacher and students construct knowledge together through questioning, clarifying, and summarising. The teacher, assuming the role of scaffolder, assists students to draw the connections between the disciplines and content that they might not have otherwise made. Additionally, they facilitate opportunities for collaborative learning, perhaps through brainstorming or discussions, for students to construct their knowledge. It is through these meaningful opportunities and repertoire of teaching strategies, driven by an integrated, big picture approach to curriculum, that students' needs are best met, both individually and as a whole, preparing them for the challenges of the 21st century. So, let's summarise. What is integration? Curriculum integration, as we've learnt, is the approach to teaching and learning that connects knowledge, understanding and skills from within or across subject areas in meaningful ways. Curricular connections can be within one subject alone, between two or more subjects, and beyond the subjects. So today I hope we've taught you a little bit about what an integrated approach is. We looked firstly at the fragmented model, then we looked at an integrated model and a shared model. But in recap, why should we adopt the integrated approach? Well, it better prepares our students for the demands of the ever-changing society in which they are living. It equips them to become 21st century learners. It is holistic, recognising the cultural and societal context of the learner. It gives you, the teacher, more autonomy and control over what and how you teach, and it helps streamline the overcrowded curriculum content. I hope you found this presentation on integration a little bit insightful, and hopefully it gives you something to think about and inspires you when you go back to your classroom and your students. Thank you for your time today.